Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Integrated Fitness Space podcast. My name is Jen Kranjek, and I'll be joined with my co-host, Jessika Ramey. We are two fitness professionals on a mission to bring more wholeness and humanness to the health and fitness conversation. In this first episode, we introduce ourselves and share the serendipitous story of how we met backstage at a bodybuilding show. We quickly discovered our shared mission, which led to the beginning of this podcast. We couldn't be more excited to now invite you in on this journey with us. And one thing to note, when we first recorded this episode, our podcast name was the Integrated Human Alliance. So just be aware you may hear us reference it as such from time to time. Now let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Integrated Human Alliance podcast. I am Jessika Ramey, joined today by my co-host, hanging out,
Jen Kranjek.
the very cool Jen Kranjek. You got to give the full...
The very cool Jen Kranjek.
Yes. So today we want to give you a little bit about who we are and what we're doing here. And the Integrated Human Alliance is a mission that is formed out of a need that we noticed going on in our spaces. So Jen and I are both personal trainers, right? Of sorts. We're lifters. I identify as a bodybuilder and a nutrition coach. And we noticed that in this space, it seems that fitness and nutrition has become completely divorced from the concept of self-care. We think of things like yoga as self-care, meditation, journaling, therapy. All this is self-care, but fitness and nutrition are over here on their own island of something that you have to do because you're not good enough. At least that's how I feel. Like this is something that you have to do because you have to change your body and you have to change your health and your doctor told you so.
Right.
And you want to look better and you want your clothes to look better. But it's not seen through the lens of something amazing, which it actually is. So in my experience, in my life, and I know in Jen's life, the practice of fitness and optimizing our own nutrition is actually a pathway to enhancing our life, to become more integrated, to feel more joy. And it's something that Jen and I, and we'll each talk to you about this today, bonded over, that this is something that we see that changed our lives, has changed our lives so completely. But there seems to be, we were talking about this before the camera started rolling, like this feeling of there's a culture of fitness. And if you don't look a certain way, then you're not part of that culture and you're not entitled to be in that space. But that space is actually self-care and it's actually for everyone. So the problem is we don't see it as self-care or something that we are a part of or that is inherently a part of us. And we separate ourselves from it and put it on its own island because it's only those people get that. And maybe you want to be someone who immerses themselves in gym culture. And that's a decision. That's your decision.
Right.
But it shouldn't be a stop sign.
Right.
It should be an invitation, something we're all entitled to. We all want to feel good. We all want to feel better. So, and there's a common problem of, I've always been interested in this, like adherence is the number one problem, right? Like nobody can stick with something.
Right.
We all know that in this field. Adherence is the issue. Me getting better at helping someone with the macronutrients or the perfect training plan, that's not going to solve the primary issue. If the primary issue is adherence, how do we help in that space? Because if we can't get people to find joy and adhere and really immerse themselves in the process, what does sharpening the tools on the other end of it do?
Right. And I think what you're talking about is almost like is a really good segue into kind of what we're doing here. And our mission is to bring more wholeness to the health and fitness conversation so that when people are setting themselves up to do a new training plan or change up their nutrition or whatever it is, they're doing it from a place of wholeness, which in other words is a place of being aligned with yourself and your deeper desires and wishes for your life, and doing it in a way that's coming from self-love, and you're on your own team. And I think that is a key element to improving adherence, because human beings are always changing, always evolving. We have the potential to. And I think when we get caught in the culture of something, or get caught in what other people think, the influences outside of us, then we think we need to change in XYZ number of ways, when really, when we take a moment to sit down and really get connected to our deeper desires with like what we want from our life, we might find that our goals are actually a little bit different, right? So maybe I'm getting all this advertising, for example, about all these diet plans, or this like 15-week to 15 pack, whatever, shred program, most extreme version, and then you're like, oh shit, like it just gets in there and you think that's what you need, and that'll what make you feel better. But maybe at the end of the day, you just want to like start to eat some more veggies and like drink more water, like, so maybe the real solution, and that's the self-care, right, is like, hey, I actually want more peace in my life. When we get to these values, I want to feel better. I want more energy. Maybe you start like, I feel like when I sit down to boil it down with clients, at the end of the day, they might want bigger biceps or like a poppin' booty, and that's cool too. That can all come from self-love. But underlying the foundation is like, yo, I want to love myself. I want to have peace and joy, and I want to have energy. I want to have energy. I don't want to feel like shit. I don't want my joints to hurt. This is self-love and self-care. And so our mission is to bring more wholeness to this conversation, and to almost like prioritize wholeness and self-care and self-love first, and then talk about fitness, our body's health, nutrition from that perspective, right? So that it's integrated. And so the mission of this podcast is not necessarily to provide answers or a solution, but to open up a pathway to an alternative way of being and doing life and fitness. Because at the end of the day, the process of integrating and becoming whole is actually ongoing, right? So there's no arrival. You're constantly integrating and renewing based on your life experiences, the person that you're becoming. What is this season of life offering you, right? I have clients who are maybe like 40-year-old mom who's had 3 kids, and she's like, when I was in high school, I was like 140 pounds and I was a sprinter. Like, okay, I love that that's who you were then, but let's be really kind to yourself now, and be in this moment. Who are you now? Who are you becoming now? What are your goals now? And so that's a key thing, is really like, let's walk this path of we're evolving, we're growing, we're integrating, and we want to keep becoming more whole. And so that is the mission of this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something you said made me think of really knowing what you're looking for, right? Most people are looking to feel peaceful, to feel energy, to feel happy in their body and happy in their skin. And you mentioned the 15 weeks to the 15 pack, right? It's
uneven. That's an uneven 6-pack.
It is an uneven number. You're got a crooked 6-pack or crooked
damn, worked all that time.
What we really want is happiness and joy. And we believe there's a lie that's sold to us. We believe that it comes in the form of that 15-pack, but through buying into that program, the 15-pack program, it actually pulls us further away from happiness.
Yes.
That's a concern of mine, because you think about,
amen, dude. Amen.
It pulls us further away. Like, think about, so we'll get into this later, but you and I are both competitive bodybuilders. There are many, many, many trade-offs that come with having a 15-pack. And when you're educated and you make those trade-offs with awareness of the fact that they're temporary, this is a sport, it lines up with your values. It's a choice. It's very, very different from buying into a lie that, yo, queen, if you have 15-pack, you will be happy and the whole world will love you.
Mm-hmm.
We buy the lie and then we pull away from happiness. All of a sudden, our lives are unhappy. And of course, we don't adhere. Who wants an unhappy life? We're trying to get closer to happiness.
Right.
So that was just something that went through my head when I was listening to you speak, and totally off the cuff. But I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Was this always we have this lens that we each
Yeah.
view fitness and nutrition through.
Mm.
When you began your own path here, when you began lifting and eating for sport, did you have this same view, or were you in a different space then?
It's like there were two layers to it, I think. And I think, yeah, I'll just speak for myself. I was about to say everyone has this, but I'll just speak for myself that there I can kind of connect back to a feeling, right? Like a feeling that like there's something really good for me to pursue here, like in my own wellness and well-being in terms of like fitness. Like I remember as a kid when I would start to move my body or work out, that made me feel better, right? So I was moving early on in life as self-care essentially. But that self-care got so quickly kind of confused and distorted just based on the messaging that I got from my family and like culture, the world around me. And so very early on, this something that was like the seed of it was good. It got really confusing, and I pretty quickly started to develop early high school, developed a disordered relationship with food, exercise, and my body, all, the whole thing. And the thing though is that it's almost like that seed, that deeper desire to pursue, like I knew deep down that there was peace. Peace was available to me if I just kept going, and I kept going, really. Like, I never settled. And so I worked through so many different like disorders and different phases of the whole thing, like, and that got me more education. I sought more answers, I sought more clarity, and just experimenting with myself. But I think again, like it's like my destiny is to be doing this work, it kind of feels like. So I think I did have that inner knowing of like, there is peace available here, there is a way to relate to my body and food and movement in a way that is awesome and whole and freeing. I like knew that intuitively. And then just like the human self has had to struggle to realize it, in my life.
So would you say that the process that you went through on your own journey served as much as your actual formal education in your ability to help other people in this process?
Totally. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. Because I think the most valuable thing is the human struggle and the ability to relate, because it's in that space where we get really creative with like how we're talking about like being an integrated whole human is like, it really does have a lot to do with your relationship with yourself and this inner experience that you're having, right? It's like being integrated isn't just like having more knowledge, right?
Right.
It's like
Right.
compiling experience and wisdom and emotion and drive and passion, like these things that are actually really hard to learn any other way but through experience. It's like the being a human. And that brings me back to, I think, our podcast is that this is about being on one level, like if you're listening and you're like, I'm not really like into fitness or whatever, really, like that's not that interesting to me. If you're a human being and you want to feel more whole and integrated, this podcast is also for you, because we're going to explore topics outside of fitness. We have our unique lenses as fitness professionals. So that's absolutely going to be a common thread here. But we want to make this relatable to all people and talk about experiences that I think people can relate to just because they have bodies and because they're humans.
It shouldn't be divorced. We shouldn't be all little parts living on an island. And we shouldn't be, I hate to use the word should, I'm using the word should. We don't need to be separating ourselves.
Yeah.
My
and that's
own
our
practice,
vision,
Yeah. My own practice as someone who uses fitness and nutrition as guide rails in my life it's part of me. It's not a diet that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
yeah, like, so this podcast is, we're fitness professionals talking about the human experience.
Right. Exactly. Love that.
And yeah, and how this all works together.
Right.
And we hope to walk with you guys on a path to like say, all right, let's jam to what you want. Maybe you don't want to be in the weight room lifting weights, but movement still has value.
Mm-hmm.
What movement do you love? And then invite you to explore that. What movement do you love? How can you become a more peaceful, happier, joyful human being?
Right. And use maybe some of the tools that fitness, the gems of the fitness space. Like I want to kind of like pull out the gems from the fitness world and bring those to all the peoples, whether you are identifying in that culture or not.
What would you say a gem or two is?
For me, I just did a 7-mile race this last weekend that I wasn't necessarily physically prepared for, but was able to call up a part of myself that was like strong and just mentally capable. And I felt like at one point I really like called in a more primitive experience of this humanness and was like, all right, let's go, like endorphins running and just like the determination and the strength, I think that fitness can offer us is beautiful. And I love to be able to help people get stronger physically, but mentally, like the ability to be like, you know what, I'm going to throw some heavy weights right now because maybe I'm a little pissed, or because I just want to show the world how strong I am. Like that is to use our physicality to strengthen our spirit and our mind. Like that's awesome. And where else can you do that? Where else can you push yourself in a physical way without abandoning yourself or hurting yourself, right? And that's where there's a line there. In the past, I pushed myself so much that it was like, I don't know what I was chasing or what the point was.
Right.
But when you know why you're pushing yourself and you're connected with your inner self and you're like, yo, girl, this is you and me. We're doing this for you. Let's go. Like,
yeah,
that's
you have
a whole
the foundation,
different story. Right? Yeah.
You're standing on a foundation of feeling yourself.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And like fighting for yourself,
Oh, I love that. I love that word. So fight, I'm not going to go into it now because I want to ask you about yours, but Fight is the name of my company.
Yeah. No, I want you to talk first. Tell me about what you do. So who are you? We want to introduce our podcast listeners to who we are as individuals and then talk about how we came together. So they really kind of get what they're dealing with when they're hanging with us. So I am curious. I've always wanted to ask you about your name.
So that was a cool segue. But yeah, my company's name is Fight. It's FYTE, and it actually is an acronym for Find Yourself Through Exercise.
Dude, I love that. What?
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Find yourself through exercise.
Oh my God,
man!
I love that so much. Find yourself through exercise. That is what I did. That is my path.
What I did,
dude.
That was what I did. God, I love you. You're such a gift to me this year. So yeah, I make a delineation.
That's so cool. You're so cool.
But they're interrelated. So are you, Queen. They're interrelated. My personal path with fitness and nutrition and spirituality and how I coach and how I run my company. They're separate and interrelated. So I'll go and explain where this comes from a little bit. So I have a history of depression and anxiety. And when I was young, in my younger years, I went away for a while to deal with it. And in that time, now my father was always an athlete and always like, you have a problem, go outside, go for a walk, go for a run, whatever. And I loved Jane Fonda from an early age. Like I just loved fitness. I just thought it was really cool. Mm-hmm. And when I was battling depression, I was away and I was going to come back to live with my father. My parents got divorced while I was away. And my father said, okay, you're going to live with me. Here are your sneakers. Here's your gym membership. This is now what you do after school.
Whoa.
And I was like, all right. I thought that was cool. So I went to the gym like every day after school. And it wasn't about my weight because my weight, I'm Italian. I'm a little thick, but I'm cute. I don't care. But it was about the immediate satisfaction that I could find in that space. My dad was a swimmer and a runner. I immediately identified with lifting weights. It was my first love. I've always loved it.
Yes, dude. We're such soul sisters.
I loved it. I loved because I felt weak on the inside. I felt weak. I didn't feel complete. And when I can go and when I can lift weights, immediately I felt like, just exhale, like, okay,
yes,
I can do this. I can lift this weight and I can stand up for myself and I can write this paper for school and I can, it started relating.
That's beautiful.
So fitness is how I dug my way out of depression.
I love that, dude.
Pretty soon after my journey, like when I got home, this is again, only my journey. I didn't want to be on antidepressants anymore. And I was like, I'm going to get myself off this. I'm going to start healing myself. I'm going to put good food in my body.
How old were you at the
always
time?
Liked good food. I was 16.
Dude, that's
I started
awesome.
fitness when I was 15. When I was 16, I was like, I'm going to go, this is my thing now that I'm going to do. And it filled me up right away. And I felt the depression going away. I got off medication and I lived in a town and I noticed, I was watching, people were swimming, running, biking, rollerblading. People would come in from Manhattan and I lived in a town called Nyack. They would like spill all over the town on the weekends. People were just exercising. And I was like, look at these fucking happy people exercising and vibing and saying hi. And like people were nice. I was like, I could live in this space. So I went to college and I wanted to be an art therapist. And I was working at a children's psychiatric hospital and I started teaching inner city kids how to swim and it filled me up and I felt a joy inside of me that I'd never felt. And I was like, I don't want to be an art therapist. I want to be a recreation therapist. I want to teach people the healing component that comes with movement or writing or hiking or eating or any of the life things that we could do that bring us joy and fill us up. That's what I want to do with my life. So I became a recreation therapist and always practicing my practice. I believe that my weightlifting and my ability to love myself with food is my yoga. Yoga is an act of self-love. It's my discipline. So that's always been a constant all through it, except when I was on bed rest when I was pregnant. Other than that, I've always been doing it. Anyway, I worked in...
You've always been doing working out, you're saying? And
yeah, in some capacity. There have been weird iterations of working out for me. I did used to smoke cigarettes while rollerblading through the streets of Nyack. Yes, I
cool.
did that.
That's rad.
It was my thing.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. So anyway, I always kept this thing. I always did some fitness on the side. I always enjoyed educating people about it. I went all through healthcare. I did a lot of really cool healthcare jobs working with like chemical dependency and the elderly and trying to do recreation therapy in as meaningful, in the most meaningful ways that I could. I ended that and my side hustle choked out my main hustle. And then I just started kind of doing fitness full time on my own on the side. I've had a company and I've had a fitness studio, but it didn't feel good. I can't do anything that feels cheesy to me. If it feels cheesy, I start to itch. It's like allergic. Like it doesn't feel honest.
Yes.
So now I just want to, with my clients, help them discover the basic healing and happiness that happens on the other side of loving yourself through this. That's basically it.
What is like a typical client, or who's a typical client that you work with, and like what kind of things do you offer them? Like what kind of fitness coach are you? What do you do?
So I want to be someone's last coach. I want to educate people to not need me. That's my my overarching goal. I want to educate people so that they find the joy that I have and that eventually they won't need me. I am basically more lifestyle than bodybuilding. I don't want to coach people to stage. I don't want that responsibility. So that's not my vibe. I do coach people on how to integrate this into them.
Right.
I want to educate and talk to them about, so deconstructing the actual nutrition, teaching people how to enjoy food that you're allowed. And I walk with them on the path of nutrition because it's quite scary for people because they've been so saturated. So there's a lot of work and space there. And then as far as just very simply with fitness, I meet them where they are, start where their feet are, and kind of like hold their hand, because people are scared of that too. People are scared of the two things that have brought me the most love. How do I get them to understand the beauty that happens in this space? So scale it back, go where they are, walk with them in a safe way, teach them to love their fitness. Might not be bodybuilding. It's probably not bodybuilding. It's mine.
Right.
But in what way can fitness enhance your life? And in what way can having an improved relationship with food enhance your life?
I like what you're saying about like, it's maybe not their fitness. Like, I think that's a good point. I want people to feel like they can find their version. And maybe your version of fitness is like jumping rope, or you rollerblade, you ride,
you frolic,
you ride,
frolic.
you frolic in fields, or you go fishing and then you climb mountains. I don't like whatever, or you just do body weight stuff in the corner of your basement, or you just run with your kids or whatever. I think really taking, like you said, taking fitness off that island and bringing it into the human experience in a way that is joyful and playful and creative and fun and even a little childlike. Like, how do kids do fitness? They they go run around the playground and do the jungle gym. Like, I will go to the playground in my neighborhood and go to
that does not surprise me,
the swings, but then I'll like do pull-ups on the the monkey bars, and like then go down the slide, whatever. It's like
we don't want folks to miss out. I think what you're saying is we don't want people to miss out on the experience of the joy that can come from this, because you're worried about how you look.
Right.
What you're supposed to look like. What you're supposed to look like. And that limits it.
Right.
Like, close that door, open up this other door of what does it feel like, instead of how will it make me look?
Right.
How can it add to the quality of my life?
Right. And back to the question of, well, what are some of the gems? Okay. So it's like, if I'm no longer looking at fitness as like this thing it's about changing the way I look, then I can go in and maybe I love doing yoga, for example. That's just what's coming to mind, or surfing, or, take whatever your thing is. And then I realized like, oh, I could actually use lifting as a tool to help me be better at this thing that I love doing. I can be better at yoga because I'm lifting. I don't have to lift to change my body, right? It's like, or, maybe you're a runner and your knees are hurting. You can use lifting to help with preventing that happen. Or I know people who do, okay, this is a good one. People who do pole dancing and I know a trainer that I did a workshop with once, who she's a pole dancer, and she helps people who do pole dancing like have lifting programs to help them be better at pole. Like, that's rad as shit. That is someone using the fitness world, the gems, right, to do this total like kind of on the edges thing. And that is fitness to me. Like, let's open up the definition of what fitness is. And that's reminding me, like, I'm just going to put this out there now in this conversation, that in this podcast, we are going to bring on guests, and we're going to bring people in that are maybe on the edges of fitness or outside of fitness, within fitness, in all different moments and perspectives, to really kind of paint this whole picture that we're trying to paint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so much here. There's so much hidden. And that's our connectedness, is that our paths are real similar. Both our lifting paths are like, not our lifting paths, but our individual, well, we're both lifters.
Well, yeah, being drawn to it at an early age too.
And how we coach.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So can I ask you a little bit about what do you do in your company and how you currently coach your clients?
Yes. So I am a online personal trainer. So I do virtual training sessions with clients. A lot of them just kind of work out from home. I have clients who are in their like a few 70-some-year-old women that I work with. It's awesome. Busy working moms. Like, it's really cool. I think the virtual world is something that it brings access to people that formerly wouldn't have. So I love that. And I also do a little bit of nutrition coaching. My work right now is evolving. I'm in kind of an evolutionary stage. The foundation of my work now is shifting from just like fitness to this broader perspective we're talking about, where it's like, at the end of the day, I'm this human being who has a certain personality and perspective and skill set. And I want to work with people that want to work with me to ultimately change. Like, I think at the end of the, like, boiling down the work that I do, it's helping people change from a place of wholeness, change in the way they want to. So I like, change is hard, right? And like I said earlier, I think it's part of what it means to be a human being, is to change and to grow. It's what nature is kind of representing and telling us through the seasons and this continuous pattern of death and renewal. And I think that is what we're doing here as well. And I think the most flourishing experience as a human being comes from really embracing change and change that is on your own team. That is, like, I like to think of change as almost this, it's not like I need to change, I need to keep changing and growing, like this desperation or this endless striving, but rather like, how am I changing? Look at these ways. What are my desires? What's evolving? It's this curiosity and this partnering with myself. And so I do identify as a fitness person, but I definitely am going about it in my own way, you know, and I'm not the only one. Clearly, here we are. So all that to say, like, I can work with people. Maybe we do, you know, I write workout programs for you. I help people get into lifting. That's one of my specialties. People are like, you know, I want to lift and I just don't know where to start. And I'm like, I got you. I'm going to keep this simple. It's going to be smart. It's going to be educated, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be Jennified. So if you want a Jennified fitness workout plan,
things are fabulous when they're Jennified, by the way.
You're awesome.
It's a good little sprinkle.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so my skills and training revolve around workouts, specifically lifting, nutrition, planning, relationship to food is a big one. So I'm really big on the experience, the more intuitive experience of food as fuel, as medicine, as nourishment, as pleasure.
Yes, please and thank you.
So all
We're
of
allowed
that,
to enjoy our friggin' food.
Yes. So super big on relationship to food and working with people on that. And then another, you know, other areas of my work that is growing, so this is kind of like my newer offerings, is maybe I work with a client and we're just doing meditation work or like spiritual inquiry, you know, or just relationship to self. Like, how do I show up for myself better? How do I improve self-care? And maybe my self-care right now isn't focused on fitness or nutrition, and that's okay. There's so many different realms. So that's kind of a snapshot of my work, you know. And I really like I said earlier, I think that we're all changing, and sometimes we just need a little bit of support. Change can feel like a radical thing, a radical act, because oftentimes the people and the systems around us rely on us staying the same. And so, like, I want to, at the end of the day, just provide a safe space for people to feel more human, to feel more themselves, to feel okay. And that, I think, is from that place, we can just grow with more ease when it's just like we're given permission to. So fitness and beyond. I'm doing some new branding right now, and it's like workouts, nutrition, and beyond.
Yeah, that reminds me of Toy Story. Don't tell me you've never seen that.
Yes, that is what I think of
infinity and
too.
beyond.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
That's you. So I need to figure out how to make a little meme of you being Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, dude, I would love to be Buzz. I identify with Buzz.
You should be Buzz Lightyear. I'm going to work on that.
Okay, cool. Love it.
Yeah. So thank you. It definitely sounds like in your work, like, okay, so our podcast is the Integrated Human Alliance, but your work is real integrated.
It's becoming more so, because that just feels the most true to me.
Speaking to the whole person. Yeah, yes. You can't be cheesy. Do you itch if you feel cheesy?
Yes.
I itch if I feel cheesy.
And I think, like, for me, I've kind of gone in more inward the last like 5 years, and I've developed a very rich inner world and spiritual practice, and I want to offer that to others. Like, that is now part of my path, right? So like for a long time it was like the working out and the nutrition, and it's all still that too, but it's also this whole other part that's coming along for the ride. So I want to offer that. I don't want to be, I think it's almost easier to just be like a fitness person and not offer like,
it is, isn't it?
Meditation, spiritual inquiry, like relationship with self, like that's a little more edgy, and I want to do that. Like, that's true to me. And I think that our world will benefit from
that's
the whole
foundation
thing.
Though, isn't it, Jen? Like, that's the foundation. And we're talking about leading people back to happiness and peace. That's a part of it. Like one of the weird things, I won't say weird, but I said weird, that I do with my clients is I'm a huge journaler.
Yes.
I believe in it.
Yes.
I think it's really important for awareness. I believe in it. So it
awareness.
might be outside the norm to think that journaling is related to your fitness and nutrition practice. It 100% is related to finding your joy, finding your happiness, getting a real solid, beautiful foundation so that you can enjoy the space, man.
Mm-hmm.
Stay walking, do your thing. So yeah, it all feels really good.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, here we are, we're talking about something that our individual approaches relate back to what we're doing here in this, because it's like anything is better when you're doing it from wholeness, from that integrated place. So I think that's a good moment to bring us to how we met. Did you have something else to add there?
I was actually going to lead us in.
All right, let's do it.
Because you can hear that how we practice fitness individually is very similar.
Right.
How we lead and coach is very similar. And we found each other in this bodybuilding space and competition prep, which is kind of generally what we went about it weird. We do it weird. I think we compete differently. And why don't you do it? I would love to hear you tell our story.
Okay, cool. Okay, so enter Jen's rookie season of bodybuilding. And I'm telling it from my perspective here. All right.
I want to hear it because I've never heard you tell it.
So I'm doing my second show ever. And I'm super excited about it. My prep was awesome. I had my whole backstory of struggling with my body and really trying to, for a long time, I was just trying to get lean. I just want to be super lean and, struggled with food and under eating, overeating, all this. Right. And so by the time I decided to do bodybuilding, it was after a period of actually kind of stepping away from any goal and just being like, yo, I'm happy in my body. I let it all go. I found peace in a new way that I never had before. And then I decided, it dawned on me, I was like, yo, I actually think I could do a bodybuilding show and it would just be an expression of joy and fun and celebration of how far I've come. So this is where I'm at. So I do my whole prep and everything. And I found my coach who is awesome, Jared Feather, really scientific, smart, knowledgeable human being, also a sweet human being, connected on the heart level with the dude. And I created my own process. I had a lot of fun and joy. So I'm super at ease about this whole prep. Meanwhile, the day of the show, I'm on my way to the venue, leaving the hotel, and I realize I left my shoes at the hotel. So my mom has to storm back. They don't give us an exact timeline. It's just kind of we'll see when you go on. Here's when it starts, but who knows how fast we actually flow through all the different, rounds or whatever. So I don't know, am I about to miss my opportunity? Will my shoes be back in time? Right. So I'm stressed. I'm talking to my mom. Finally, she gets there. She finds the shoes. So I'm on the phone when Jess overhears me on the phone with my mom talking about shoes. And she's on her way back. And I find out that we still have plenty of time. So all is good. So I'm, a little flustered in this moment. I almost thought I was I had this moment of I was like, Mom, you need to go. You got this. Come on, go get the shoes. Meanwhile, I'm also okay, well, in my head, I'm if it doesn't happen, I did everything I could. Acceptance, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. So I am backstage and Jess approaches me and she's like, hey, dude, I heard you saying you might need shoes. I have a size 10 in my car if you need it. And so this was my first introduction to this human being, offering me literally her extra pair of shoes, which is pretty cool because you actually use shoes as an analogy. So you were literally offering me shoes to put on and walk on stage and express myself. So thank you. I did eventually get my shoes after another whole panic moment, but Jess and I started talking, and without saying many words, I knew right away this person, just her ease and chillness backstage, I could tell that she did her prep in a way that she was I'm chilling. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing here. I love myself. I value peace and joy, right? Like I could just see that in her. And so we started vibing and she was letting me use her weights to pump up backstage. She was just like this like super supportive human being for me. And I was so grateful for your presence back there, like really. And even if we never saw each other ever again, that was a beautiful moment and blessing.
Yeah.
But we started talking. It was like, oh, you work in fitness too? Cool, me too. You said a little bit about your prep, and I was like, wow, yeah, we both were kind of like, food is pleasure, and we're just driving ourselves into the ground. And then we started to learn that we were in the same small circles. Like my coach, Jared Feather, had been your coach at one point.
Right.
I know who your coach was too from the social media world.
Right.
And we're in the coaching group together.
Comprehensive coaching with Gabby
coaching. This like
Fondaro,
very
Dr. Gabrielle
small.
Fondaro.
We're in this very small niche group together.
Weird.
And what's funny is Gabby had one time told me that I should connect with you before I even met you.
Oh yeah.
So it was like, okay, all the things started lining up, and then we like look at our numbers. I'm 39, right? I was 39. You were 40.
Yes.
We were on stage next to each other.
Yeah, I'm 40.
So the universe was literally like, yo, these two, Jess and Jen, are going right next to each other. They have work to do. Like we knew
it was so much fun.
It was magic. It was magic. You know those moments, listeners? You know those moments when you meet someone and it's like, I have known you longer than just right now. I feel like we're picking up on a conversation we've already been having for 10 years.
100%.
You just feel safe and at home with this other human being. That was us. That was us.
It was so wild. What I loved about it is, first of all, that I was not a newbie. I've been doing it for a while, but this was my favorite prep I've ever had.
Yes.
I
could see it. I could see it in you.
Wonderful. I was working with, or still work with, Alberto Nunez, who's very much about the human experience. Hopefully we'll get him on too. But just, so the whole thing, my whole prep was just, it was like a flower opening. You know what I'm saying? It was just like breathing into it. And I was, although I was making these trade-offs, I was becoming this human that was like, I was just becoming something amazing. I don't know what the hell was going on, but it was definitely a wild experience. And I loved that show. And it was the first one. Like she had never done that show, that promoter, before.
Right.
And I loved the venue.
It was all magical. Also magical.
And so we didn't, but sometimes, as you would imagine in a bodybuilding show or pageants or something like that, people are sizing each other up backstage and they're not always so friendly. Mm-hmm. We had that backstage vibe so killer that day. Did we not?
Yeah,
like, that was
good.
Just a great, I still talk to so many of the people that, it was a wonderful, wonderful time.
So thankful for that.
And we were all, as people were doing their stage walks and we were backstage, like we were cheering each other on that day. Mm-hmm. And the footage of you winning your pro card. So you won your pro card in that show. Mm-hmm. And I love all the pictures because all you notice is we're like so happy.
Yes.
Like just, you weren't even looking. You're like we were just, it was like such a moment. And I was happy for you. You were happy for everybody. And like, it was just such a beautiful time.
I'm so glad we were next to each other on stage. I got to like celebrate. I felt like I was celebrating I wasn't like surrounded by strangers. It didn't like, even though I was, it didn't feel like I was surrounded by strangers. Like I had you on one side and what was her name? The promoter. I had her on the other side.
Yeah, she was cool. I still talk to her. It was just such a good time.
Maybe I'll put a picture into our podcast. I'll blip it in for our viewers to see.
That would be cool. It epitomizes what we're doing right now because it's not what you would think. Fitness is not what you might necessarily think. There's so much more beauty that can happen in that space. And bodybuilding competition is much the same. It gets a bad rap for being really unhealthy. Mm-hmm. A prep can be really unhealthy.
It can be, absolutely.
And it can be, unless you have this beautiful foundation. Mm-hmm. And shows, they can be yicky. Our experience was not that. Mm-hmm. It's outside the norm. Our preps were outside the norm. That's why, like, to open up or illuminate this possible other vibe that people could get from fitness or from nutrition or from bodybuilding. These are paths that you can walk to enhance your life. Like you didn't only get your pro card, we got a friendship. It was a good
We're doing this
damn
podcast
time.
now.
We're doing this podcast now. But Alberto just did a podcast on 3DMJ about all of the unexpected rewards that you actually get from bodybuilding.
Yeah.
There are a lot of unexpected rewards that you might get from loving yourself through food,
right,
and from lifting weights and realizing I'm strong enough to lift this up. I can control this.
Yes.
I can lift this. I can work against gravity and move this thing.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing. It's an unexpected practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's cool to have those things in our life where we can get these small wins.
Yeah.
Like you might be struggling in another area of your life right now, and that's just what's happening and you need to get through it. Right? Like the human experience comes with its moments, its seasons of struggling and in different facets of our lives. And that's part of it, right? Is that there's these hard moments that come up. But to have this maybe this area of your life that you can then, kind of like shut everything else out and go into the gym and lift more than you did last week. It's like a small win. It's a small expression to carry you through. Or like this bodybuilding prep, like this like really fun thing you get to do as an expression of something. Although I will say that bodybuilding prep is something you should take on when you feel like you have a lot of, space mentally and emotionally and physically for it. But yeah, there's so much that it can offer us.
And circling back to it is self-care. Therefore, life has its periods of obstacles and unbelievable challenges where we have to call on our strength and our character and our values to get us through. This is a way that you can care for yourself so that you can carry that heavy backpack up the mountain when you're called to do so.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's something that we hope to do for you guys. So we're grateful that you're here walking with us up this mountain, on this path, sharing this experience. And we're really hopeful that we can bring you. We're going to be bringing different guests on and introducing different topics to broaden our view and our scope of how we might see this. This is not just weight loss and physique change. There's a beautiful world in here. And we really seek to show you this beautiful world so that you can start grabbing pieces of it for yourself and making yourself feel freaking happy.
Yes. Become more whole, more integrated.
Yeah.
And even discover more what that even means. Maybe you're like, yeah, I like the sound of that wholeness, right? But what does that mean? And I hope that we will offer insight into that, and some of the things to look at in your own life that might offer more wholeness, and I think a common thread will definitely be just relationship to self-talk, like how I talk to myself relating to any area of my life. Like, are you bullying yourself in the gym? And are you bullying yourself into your next fitness plan?
Or loving?
Well, that's a whole area then to say, wait a minute, how am I treating myself? Like, how can I spin this from a bullying attempt to make myself feel better into doing this from being on my own team right now, today?
Right.
So, I hope to leave our listeners with questions and insights, and also maybe experiences and things they can offer us, because I want to keep growing and keep understanding more. So, reach out to us on social media, chime in on our website.
Please. This is an alliance, right? We want to hear from them.
Yes. We really want this to be something that feels like you can be a part of it and add to it. Join us. We're stronger together, Nice.
So thank you so much for joining us on episode 1 today. We hope you enjoyed it, our little anecdotes and our little tales. And thank you, Jen, for walking this journey with me. I'm so looking forward to everywhere that this brings us.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so grateful for us being brought together. Looking forward to wherever it takes us.
See you guys for episode 2.
Peace out.
Thanks so much for listening and vibing with us today in this integrated fitness space. If you connected with this particular episode and you want to take it even one step further, head over to our podcast page where we provided some reflection, questions, and actions that are unique to this episode. These are intended to help you dig a little bit deeper, sit, simmer, and marinate with some bits and pieces that maybe stood out to you. We want to help you move a little bit more toward action in your life. If something clicked, we highly recommend you exploring it just a little bit further. And if you happen to connect with our mission and you're enjoying this podcast, please share it however you decide to share good things. This will help us reach and help more awesome humans like you. You can also support us by leaving a review on our podcast page. We look forward to sharing a new episode with you every other Wednesday. And of course, you can always subscribe to our podcast so that you don't miss a beat. Until next time.